As a professional wildlife filmmaker, you get used to traveling with a lot of cases. Sometimes you'll be traveling with 30 or even 40 or more cases, and it's a lot to manage. It's a lot of stuff just to keep track of, and it makes traveling pretty stressful. And so one of the things that I dream of is having a single backpack solution. And so that would be a backpack that carries all of the kit that I need for filming wildlife. And it's fairly easy if you're just doing long lens. You have a camera with a long lens on it. But as soon as you start adding other elements in, it becomes trickier. And one of the things that adds a lot of gloss to natural history films, but also requires quite a lot of cases, is motion control equipment. And so that's moving the camera, and often that'll be while you're filming macro or smaller creatures, or we used it a lot on Green Planet to film plants. And it's generally a brain that consists of a pan and tilt head and then a slider and maybe other bits as well. I'm thinking about how to get those sorts of shots with a much smaller kit. And recently I went on holiday and I was going to take this because it just is very easy to chuck in my bag. I didn't even have any ideas about filming with it. As I was leaving, I thought I'd put this in my bag. And this is a tiny little slider made by YC Onion. I think it's called the chocolate slider. I don't know if you can even buy it anymore, but it's been sitting in one of my drawers for a couple of years now, and it's barely been used because it's just a little bit too small, really. I thought it'd be good, but I haven't found the right places to use it. But I put it in the case with me, and I think alongside the Osmo 3, it might be a really nice solution for getting those moving shots that add a lot of production value to a shoot. And so, yeah, it's a very simple system. And to be honest, it's not true motion control because they don't talk to each other. The slider was just bouncing backwards and forwards, and then I was using some of the active track features on the Osmo Pocket to either track things or using the Mimo app to control the head as the slider was bouncing backwards and forwards. I just mounted the slider on this stills tripod. I put the head on the slider and then attached the Osmo Pocket onto that. It's a fairly small setup. I mean, it can fit in a big pocket, but in comparison to a normal 5-foot slider, 6-foot slider, the two tripods at either end, and then the head, batteries, camera, you're looking at multiple cases, 3, 4 cases for that, whereas this will very easily fit inside a single backpack. I was on holiday for my 15-year anniversary, so this was pretty much an afterthought. I wasn't thinking much about filming, but I had a few hours one morning and I rushed out with this setup. First thing I saw as I was walking around the hotel was I saw these flowers, and so I just set this up. Basic slide on the slider. It's got about a 14 centimeter range, but it's actually one of the clever sliders that has 2 sliding bits, so you actually get double that. So it's about 28 centimeters of slide. At full speed, that takes about 15 seconds. So I just did a slide reveal shot, and to be honest, it's not great. The focus was just on continuous autofocus, so it's focused on the back. As the flower comes in, it focuses onto that, and then we slide past it, and so it was a bit of a weird shot. The flower doesn't look great, and so I thought I'd go off and find something else and try the active track. So with the active track, I had the slider going backwards and forwards, and then I set the Osmo Pocket to have this flower in the center. And at the time when I was filming it, I hadn't realized there was actually this cool little jumping spider on it. But it slid past it and rotated round with it, and then the slider bounced back to start going the other way, and the active track lost it. So I went and did it again, and it was a bit better that time, but it was a slightly uninspiring shot. So I thought I'll move on to another location. I headed into the hotel gardens and did another slide. And this one again was just a straight slide, and I had the focus set onto the flower. But you'll notice that there's a weird bit of focus flicker. This is something that repeats with the Osmo, and it's something that I don't really like. And this one was an active track on the flower, and you can see it rotates and keeps the flower central as the slider slides away from it, and then we slide back again, and keeps the flower in the shot. And there you go, you can see that weird focus flicker. So it's a bit annoying, but it does sort of work. And then I tried a wide shot. You can see it just doesn't work. You need to have the camera close to something for it to work, because you just don't see any movement when it's wide. And then I moved further in and saw these really nice leaves, and had this slide, tilted the ball head over, and we just slid along the leaf. And I thought, oh, okay, let's have a bit more of a play with this. So I flipped it upside down, and this is where this setup really shines, because it's so small, it doesn't need multiple supports. And so you can get the lens really, really close to whatever it is you're filming. And I'm not sure if this is the lens or the camera that's juddering, or the leaf, but there's a little bit of wobble. And I tried to line it up so we got a bit of a closer shot, but I misjudged it and we crashed into a leaf. So I reset it, and this was just set with a static focus. So this was focused at the closest focusing point, and it worked all right. After filming that leaf, I reset the camera and had it pushing towards this nice buttress route. And I'd put the camera into control by the Mimo app, and hadn't realized that all the settings had totally changed. So it went off speed, I'd slowed down the slider a bit, and it went into this 709 color space, which was bright and pretty over the top. I then moved the shot and realized that there were some ants on the buttress route, and so I started having a bit of a play filming them. And they're small in frame, but they were quite interesting. I was filming at about 30 frames a second for this, to slow down to 25, to take a bit of the wind movement out of the leaves in the background, but also to calm the ants down a little bit. But to be fair, they're pretty calm ants anyway. So yeah, you can see here, I'm rotating the camera with the Mimo app while the slider just bounces backwards and forwards. So we've got these little ants on the route. I think I could have done with the camera being slightly higher, but the focus is all right. But as the camera keeps on moving, I was having to focus by tapping the screen just to make sure that the focus stayed in. You'll see that sometimes I let it drift from one of the ants to another one, and then this is something that I kept on running into as well, because it's a wide lens on the Osmo, and you're underneath the center of the tripod. As you rotate, you'll often get the legs in, and so as this was just sort of a proof of concept, I didn't do anything to hide the legs, but next time I'll hide the legs a bit. In this shot now, I've cropped in about 50%, and you can see that it looks all right. It's a nice bit of movement, which feels pretty smooth. There is a little bit of judder every so often. The focus looks pretty crispy. That is partly down to the sharpening on these on the Osmo Pocket Rec 709 settings. But in terms of getting a shot like that at, well, more than 1080p, it looks pretty nice. It can be a little bit jerky to control the pan and tilt directions on the camera, while you're also trying to make sure the focus works all right. And it's one of the things that I don't like about this system. The focus on the Osmo Pocket is very mechanical, very jerky. I was just having to have it on single focus and then tap to refocus. This I tried a focus pull, so went past the ants to show where they were going, and they lived up in the top of this tree. I didn't manage to tilt all the way up to see their nests, but you can see that horrible pull focus. And then the leg comes in as well. And this is when I realised that I wasn't just looking at a LUT, I was in Rec 709. So I changed back, and you can see that this is actually in real time in 25 frames a second. Back into D-Log-M. And this, I was trying to keep this ant just in frame as the camera was continuously moving on the slider backwards and forwards. And so pan up, got the leg in again, but I'm just going to ignore that for this test. And then we're sliding back towards it now, and you'll see the focus change every so often as I tap to keep it in. It's quite a nice moment with the ant cleaning itself. And you could imagine cutting in now to a close-up shot on a specialist macro lens, and then we see the ant scamper away. And at this point I was thinking about getting different shots, so I readjusted the camera to take on a overhead, almost like a drone shot, to follow the ants as they climbed along the route. Here we are pushing forwards, so it's quite a nice shot. The ants are moving through the plane of focus, so even though individual ants come and go through focus, there's always some as we push forwards, and it feels like quite a nice, impressive shot. One thing that I would love would be to be a bit tighter on the ants. They still feel quite small, and that is just the limitation of the close focus on this lens. I was at or around close focus for all these shots. I set this up as a top-down shot. I used my finger to gauge the focus on this shot, and it sort of feels like a slow, drifty drone shot flying above the route, and you could definitely match cut this in with a drone shot from higher up. Eventually I called it a day because I was being absolutely nailed by mosquitoes, but I was quite happy with what I managed to get. And I think the takeaways are that this is such a small and compact camera, but the great thing about it is that you can get the lens really close to the ground, and so that gives you a huge sense of parallax. And I suppose it's a bit similar to the probe lens in that you can really get that perspective that you just can't get on bigger cameras with bigger lenses, because automatically they can't get that close to the ground. And so that is one of the real benefits of this system. You can really get in and into the environment, especially on a small macro scale. It's not without its challenges though. The focus I need to sort out. I want to get a more organic feeling focus, and the fact that these two don't talk to each other is a bit of a problem, because it just means that you're bouncing backwards and forwards, and it's not really a planned move. You just have to go with it. It's not quite true motion control, but it can give you that feeling. So let me know if you've enjoyed that sort of experimental style of video where I'm testing out new combinations of using kit, and there's more stuff coming up. I'm heading off on a shoot where I'm going to have to pack really light, and so this may well be in there somewhere. Let me know if you have any other ideas on how to use the Osmo Pocket to get those really high-end motion shots that really lift a production. This is just scratching the surface of all the different combinations of kit that can be used to really elevate a show and show off nature to its fullest. So yeah, my brain's whirring after this. More to come. See you next time.